Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Recently, and I say recently, I mean in the last 2 months, one of my videos has really taken off, and I actually made the video over a year ago, and it is on hosta propagation, and it's had over 100,000 views on that one video just in the last about 2.5 months alone. And with it came a lot of questions. So today I want to take our time on the video to answer all of your questions and respond to a couple of your comments on hosta propagation and see if we can get a little bit clearer picture for our viewers today about how some of this works. Our first question today is from Ting Zhao, and Ting asked, what month is the best time to divide these hostas in Zone 8? Well, there's no exact time of year that's best to divide hostas. I usually do mine in the spring after they put on their initial flush of growth from after waking up from dormancy, but you can really divide them any time of year. I just don't mess with it at all during the winter, and during the summer I don't like to do these really harsh divisions. I mean, it's harsh on the plants to just cut them all to pieces. I don't like to do it in the middle of the summer when it's really hot. It just tends to be a little bit harsher on the plants, but pretty much any time of the year you can divide your hostas. Another question, Orlando Lang asked, what do you do with your plants, or what do you do with them for the winter in places where the ground freezes? You just leave them in their containers until the following spring, or what? All of my plants, all of my hostas, they stay in their pots all the time. I don't cover them. Maybe I cover a few things, but hostas don't need to be covered. Hostas don't need to be protected. They don't need to be taken out of their pots. They all overwinter in pots just fine, whether it's a little small 3.5-inch pot or a trade gallon pot or larger. Hostas overwinter just fine in their pots. Ellie O asks, why do you cut the leaves off when you divide and replant? Would it hurt to leave them on? This is literally the #1 question that I'm asked about how I do my hosta propagation. It would not hurt at all to leave the leaves on. Just remember that when I make these little small hosta divisions, I'm not making them so that they look nice this year. I'm making them so they look nice next year. And I just simply cut the leaves off so they're not big and flopping and falling all over the place, because they're going to kind of look wilted and beat up when you divide them. So I just cut them off. Within a few weeks, new leaves have grown back in, and before you know it, you've got a nice little plant in just a matter of a couple months, and it spends the rest of the season growing out into what will surely be a nice plant next spring. Ken asks, one question I have, do you use any special potting mix? I do not. I use the same potting mix for my hostas that I use for everything else, and it's a mixture of finely ground hardwood bark and pine bark. And I have a video on how to make your own DIY potting soil, but the two things necessary for potting soil to be really good are that it has to drain well and it has to retain some moisture. So as long as you've got both of those things in place, any potting soil will serve you really well. Mark B asks, do you fertilize these young plants at all through the year? Can they be overwintered in those very small pots? I fertilize all of my plants when I pot them with a tablespoon or less, depending on the size of the pot, of slow release fertilizer. Now, some of my hostas, I have failed to fertilize them before and it doesn't seem to phase them. I don't really understand that, but you know, that's another reason why hostas are awesome. You don't have to take perfect care of them in order for them to thrive. But yes, I do fertilize all my plants. Hostas, I don't even know if you have to, but I do. Oh, and they will overwinter in small pots just fine. Dreamcatcher asks, where can you get the identity tags for the pots? Well, I don't know. That's a great question. I make all of my own tags or labels, whatever you want to call them, and I just take cheap vinyl window blinds from Lowe's or Walmart or wherever, take a pair of scissors, cut them up, use a #2 pencil, and write the name of the plant on them, and that will work for at least 2 or 3 years. It never fades, it doesn't wash off, nothing like that, and nothing works better that I know of, and it costs virtually nothing. Joe Britton asks, does this work with Empress Woo or any of the other giant size hostas? Yes, it absolutely works with any hosta. Now, all hostas do not multiply at the same rate. I know for sure that some of the giant hostas do not send up, you know, shoot after shoot after shoot quickly. They take longer to develop, and they take longer to turn one plant into multiple plants. They obviously will with time, and some hostas multiply very quickly. You can do it with any hosta, but any given variety, I'm not really sure, but yes, it works with the giants. Plant Sim asks, so did you wash the dirt off the root for display on this video, or is there benefit to doing that in the nursery trade also? Yeah, when I'm dividing hostas, I wash all the dirt off of the roots, and I do that so I can see what I'm doing, because I get down in there with a sharp knife. I make really fine cuts so I can get out every single division that I possibly can. So the reason that I wash that off is so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Now, if you're just a hobby gardener and you're just dividing your own hostas at home or whatever, it's absolutely not necessary to do that at all. You don't need to be that precise. You don't need to take that kind of care and be that exact with it. You can take a shovel and just whack them, an axe, a machete, whatever you have, and just split them in half, in fourths, whatever. There's no real care even needed. But yeah, I do that just so I can see exactly what I'm doing. Melinda White asks, so will it take 2 growing seasons to have marketable plants? Is that as fast as they will grow with fertilizer? Some plants you can divide and they'll be ready to sell the following season. Some will take 2 seasons. It just depends on the hosta. They vary a great deal in their growth rates, but just understand that when you're doing this, you're not doing one hosta. You're doing 20 or 50 or 100 or 1,000. You're not doing one plant. So just, it's not, I'm dividing a plant so in a year I can make $6. It's not that. It's, I'm dividing hundreds of plants so in the year and the years ahead I can make thousands of dollars. So it's just kind of a matter of perspective on looking at that really the correct way. But yes, it takes 1 growing season after division or 2 depending on the plant. David Sullivan asked, I was at a small nursery and they mentioned that some hostas have copyrights on them and people can't divide them and sell them. Have you heard of that? Yes, those are called patented plants. You cannot propagate patented plants. When a patent is issued for a plant, that patent is good for 20 years from the date that the patent is filed. So after 20 years, patented plants can then be patented by the general public or by nursery people or whomever. But if a plant is under patent protection, you cannot legally propagate it. That is correct. Dave Brown comments, cutting the leaves off is incorrect and makes no sense. There are plenty of roots there to provide water for those leaves. The leaves will provide food for the roots. Cutting them back just doesn't make any sense at all. Well, Dave, maybe you're right, or maybe I'm right, or maybe we're both right. In my video, I show you how I do it, and I'm always happy to show you the results of what I do. When things fail, I'll show you that things fail. When things are successful, I'll show you the success. That being said, come to my nursery, come look at any of my hostas, and you tell me if any of them are unhealthy, if any of them are stunted, if any of them have any problems. All I know is that cutting the leaves off works. Bob Farley comments, $6 whole in 2 years. What a waste of time. As is me dignifying this comment with any response at all. Darling Long asks, is it okay to propagate these while they are in bloom? Yeah, sure, it's okay to propagate them absolutely, really any time of year. Again, I just do it in the springtime, but you could cut the blooms off of them just to get them out of the way and do it in the late spring and early summer as they're blooming. You can do it either way, it's not a problem. Narians ask, can I plant hostas by seeds? Yes, hostas can be planted by seeds, but hostas will not come true to their particular variety from seeds. So if you take a hosta like a blue mouse ears, that's one that I work with commonly, and save the seeds from a blue mouse ears hosta and plant them, you will not have a blue mouse ears hosta. That's just not how they work due to hybridizing and selective breeding and all that type of thing. That is not how it works, but you can absolutely grow seeds from hostas and you're going to more than likely produce a generic green hosta. They'll be pretty, they just won't be any named variety. So from the largest of hostas, like the Victory, to the smallest, like the blue mouse ears, this hosta propagation technique works with all hostas, large and small. I appreciate you asking all these questions, and you feel free to ask any more you can think of. I love y'all, and I will see you on the next one.